In this episode, we dive into the advantages and disadvantages involving the scope of geopolitical power that is BRICS and G7. Historically, the G7 represented the dominant capitalist economies, and its members played major roles in establishing the rules of global trade and finance. These rules were often crafted in ways that perpetuated the economic dominance of the West. The emergence of BRICS represents a challenge to this economic order. These countries seek a bigger role in international financial institutions and aim to offer alternatives, like the BRICS New Development Bank, to Western-dominated institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. The G7 represents liberal democracies with shared political and cultural values, largely rooted in Western Enlightenment ideals. BRICS is more diverse, with varied political systems ranging from democracies to autocracies. They don't necessarily share a common political or cultural identity, but have found common ground in their shared status as rising powers and often in their perspectives on international relations that challenge Western hegemony. Can BRICS thrive beyond their shared pursuit of power and economic advancement, coupled with their skepticism of Western hegemony? If the ascent of BRICS nations challenges the status quo, might it prompt the G7 nations to innovate and turn inward for resources and economic resilience, especially if BRICS realizes its ambitions? While BRICS represents a wide and possibly forward-thinking array of societies with political systems ranging from democracies to autocracies, could it be a discrete tool for China to eclipse the US in global prominence? As pressures mount and allegiances take shape, where would you choose to plant your flag? If you enjoy this type of content, there's a thumbs up and subscribe button just below this video that will send you to your favorite video if you click it. If it doesn't work, click the notification bell and let us know in the comment section below. Now back to the episode. The acronym BRIC was first introduced in 2001 by Jim O'Neill, a Goldman Sachs economist, through his paper Building Better Global Economic BRICS. Initially, the term grouped together Brazil, Russia, India, and China. However, by 2010, South Africa joined, leading to the updated acronym BRICS. In the early stages, the collective messages from BRICS summits underscored the importance of elevating emerging nations in the global decision-making landscape. Their joint statement in 2009, in the aftermath of the global financial meltdown, highlighted the critical role of the G20 in orchestrating financial strategies. Furthermore, they called for reforms in major global financial institutions, advocating for better representation for developing economies and demanding a more transparent process for leadership selections. These statements shed light on long-standing practices where the World Bank was predominantly led by an American, while a European often held the IMF, and Western developed countries dominated in voting capacities. Interestingly, the inception of the BRIC Consortium was not a result of the country's own initiative, but stemmed from O'Neill's analytical perspective. His hypothesis pivoted on the projection that the economic trajectories of these nations were poised to not only rank them among the global economic giants, but also shift the epicenter of global economic influence. Recognizing the mutual advantages of collaboration, the initial 4 countries gravitated towards formal dialogues, culminating in the formalization of BRIC as a structured cooperative entity. Together, they endeavored to address shared objectives, restructure the global financial framework, amplify their voice in international platforms, and tackle shared challenges. After South Africa's inclusion in the BRIC coalition, which then became BRICS, in 2010, several countries like Argentina and Iran have shown an inclination to join the alliance. In 2010, South Africa initiated its journey to become part of the BRIC group. The formal induction process commenced in August that year, and by December 24, 2010, following China's formal invitation and subsequent approval from the existing BRIC nations, South Africa was officially incorporated. The formation of BRICS not only signifies the rise of emerging economies, but also poses as a strategic counterbalance to the long-standing dominance of the G7 in global affairs. The Group of Seven, G7, is a coalition of 7 leading global economies comprising of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Additionally, the European Union holds a seat at G7 gatherings. Collectively, the G7 nations account for a substantial slice of global wealth and economic productivity. Originating in the tumultuous economic landscape of the 1970s, spurred by the oil crisis and financial uncertainties, the G7 has its roots in the informal library group dialogues held among finance ministers from the US, the UK, France, and Germany in the White House Library. The addition of Japan in 1973 led to the formation of the Group of 5, G5, which expanded to the Group of 6, G6, with Italy's inclusion in 1975. The inaugural G6 summit was hosted in Rambouillet, France. When Canada entered the fold in 1976, the group was christened the Group of 7. It's important to mention that Russia was once a G7 member, elevating the group to the G8. However, Russia's involvement in Ukraine and its annexation of Crimea led to its exit from the group. The G7 stands distinct from formal institutions like the United Nations or North Atlantic Treaty Organization (NATO) due to its casual nature, operating without a charter or central administrative office. Annually, the leadership baton of the G7 shifts among its members, with the presiding country crafting the summit's agenda and overseeing its preparations. In 2023, Japan takes up this role. Preceding the main leaders summit, delegates known as Sherpas convene to sketch out and settle on policy decisions. Occasionally, non-member nations receive invitations to join G7 meetings. In summary, the G7's formation and evolution have been deeply influenced by global developments, and despite the G20's rising prominence, the G7 continues to be a key platform for collaboration among the globe's major economies. BRICS emerged as a counterbalance to the Western-centric G7, presenting an alternative paradigm to the prevailing economic and political dominance of the West. However, internal differences and deep-rooted alliances amongst its members might pose hurdles to its global aspirations. While many African nations are governed by autocratic regimes, China's burgeoning influence, characterized by substantial loans and infrastructure development, has made it an attractive ally for these nations. On the other hand, India, Russia, and Brazil are concentrating on reducing their dependency on the dollar. The long-standing border tensions between China and India remain a looming concern, reflecting the deteriorating bilateral relationship over recent years. The path to resolution is fraught with multiple challenges, heightened by recent confrontations, increasing militarization, India's proactive foreign policy, and emerging regional strategic threats. Russia faces internal discontent due to the ongoing conflict with Ukraine, as economic downturns fueled by Western sanctions and resource constraints shake citizens' trust. Meanwhile, despite past geopolitical frictions, Saudi Arabia and Iran recently mended diplomatic ties facilitated by China. Yet, the new entrants to BRICS present a mixed bag, Argentina grappling with recurring economic issues and as the IMF's largest debtor, contrast starkly with Egypt, another major IMF debtor facing economic challenges. African nations, while benefiting from Chinese investments, grapple with bloated budgets and half-completed projects. China itself contends with demographic shifts, transitioning economic models, regional debt imbalances, and a turbulent housing sector. However, the silver lining for BRICS lies in its rich mosaic of member nations, possessing vast reserves of oil, natural resources, and China's financial might. This positions BRICS as a potential counterweight to the G7 consortium. Through their new development bank, poised as an alternative to the West-leaning World Bank and IMF, BRICS holds the potential to recalibrate, if not redefine, the global geopolitical and economic equilibrium. As the global balance of power gradually shifts, the economic and political aspirations of the G7 and BRICS nations increasingly intersect, setting the stage for an intricate dance of cooperation and competition in the evolving world order. The inclusion of countries like Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iran, and Argentina would significantly expand the character, diversity, and complexity of the BRICS group. The varied political and cultural backgrounds of these nations could introduce fresh perspectives and new approaches to global challenges, enhancing the group's adaptability. However, with a more diverse membership, finding common ground could become more challenging. Each nation's unique national interests might sometimes conflict with those of the original BRICS or among the new entrants themselves. The original intent of BRICS to serve as a counterbalance to Western economic dominance might get diluted with the inclusion of countries that have strong economic ties with the West, like Saudi Arabia and the UAE. The rise of BRICS as a dominant economic bloc would present a mixed bag of challenges and opportunities for the G7 nations. On one hand, a BRICS-led world could lead to significant trade disruption for the G7, as the bloc might establish new trade norms, potentially sidelining G7's established standards. This scenario could particularly affect the US if BRICS introduced a potent alternative to the dollar for global trade, potentially undermining its value and economic leverage it provides. Moreover, with BRICS taking a larger slice of the global investment pie, G7 nations might witness reduced foreign direct investment, hampering growth in certain sectors. Furthermore, as several BRICS countries are major commodity producers, they could wield influence on global commodity pricing, posing economic challenges to G7 countries that rely on imports. Conversely, the ascent of BRICS presents notable opportunities for the G7. A flourishing BRICS economy would mean larger and more prosperous markets, ripe for G7 businesses to tap into, providing vast new consumer bases and avenues for trade. As BRICS economies diversify and innovate, G7 countries could benefit from collaborative ventures, especially in sectors like technology and sustainable development. The competition from BRICS might also invigorate G7 nations, driving them towards greater innovation, fostering technological advancements, and bolstering their own internal industries. Additionally, a more diversified global supply chain resulting from BRICS' rise could offer G7 countries greater resilience and adaptability in their economic endeavors. In essence, while BRICS dominance introduces potential hurdles for the G7, it also paves the way for novel economic and diplomatic engagements. The BRICS coalition, with its diverse economies and combined population, possesses the potential to redefine global economic and political dynamics. China, as the largest economy within BRICS, stands to leverage this platform to further amplify its global influence. By harnessing the collective economic strength and strategic resources of the BRICS nations, China could position itself at the forefront of global initiatives, especially in regions where the West, particularly the US, has held traditional sway. The new development bank, presented as an alternative to the Western-centric World Bank and IMF, offers an avenue for China to finance and influence large-scale infrastructure and development projects, especially in developing countries that are eager for investment but wary of Western conditions. By setting trade agreements within the BRICS and with other nations, China can promote the use of its currency, the yuan, over the US dollar, potentially challenging its status as the world's primary reserve currency. Moreover, as the BRICS nations work towards diversifying their economies away from the dollar-centric trades, China can fortify its economic relationships, setting up alternative global trade and payment mechanisms. Furthermore, through BRICS, China could champion new standards in technology, communication, and other sectors, shifting the epicenter of innovation and production. While the US's global dominance is a result of its military prowess, economic strength, cultural appeal, and diplomatic networks, a strategically maneuvered BRICS coalition led by China has the potential to challenge, if not supplant, several of these pillars over time. The BRICS coalition, though bound by mutual ambitions of power and economic prosperity, as well as skepticism towards Western hegemony, stands at a crossroads of potential unity or divergence due to the varied political landscapes and inherent national interests of its members. Its rise undeniably poses a challenge to the existing world order, potentially serving as a catalyst for the G7 to reimagine their economic strategies, emphasizing self-reliance and innovation. However, the broadness and diversity within BRICS, spanning from democracies to autocracies, raise pertinent questions about its cohesiveness. While it promises a more inclusive and representative world order, there are concerns, given China's economic and military might, that BRICS could inadvertently become a vehicle for China's ambitions, shifting the balance of power in its bid to rival, if not surpass, the US on the global stage. But what are your thoughts? Is it feasible for G7 and BRICS nations to harmoniously coexist, potentially fostering a world with enriched dialogues and thriving economies? Or do these alliances merely veil a deeper contention between the US and China? Leave your comments below. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. We hope you'll stay and watch another video, but if not, until next time, my friends. That's it for today's episode of Critically Speaking. Thanks for joining us as we explore the latest movies, games, and hot topics. Stay up to date with our latest content by hitting that notification bell. And if you enjoyed the show, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. And as always, stay critical.